Louis C.K. is one of the greatest and most unique stand-up comedians of all time. With a long and distinguished career full of jokes and absurdities, he's had some incredibly memorable moments. One of the funniest Louis C.K. moments of all time was when he did the Opie and Anthony radio show, and during a segment where they took calls from listeners, he ended up talking on the phone with the former Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld. This was an incredibly entertaining call because Louis C.K. would press Donald Rumsfeld repeatedly on the conspiracy theory of how American politicians are lizard people and ask him directly if he was a reptile. The way Donald Rumsfeld handled this situation was the best it could probably be, but it's safe to say he was humiliated when this clip went viral. And it was one of the funniest moments in the history of Opie and Anthony's radio show. It all started in 2011 when Louis was hosting a 3-hour phone-in show where he gives listeners the chance to call and ask questions or talk about themselves. And to the surprise of everyone, Donald Rumsfeld called in.
And welcome Donald Rumsfeld to the Opie and Anthony Show.
Yes, indeed. How are you?
Very good. Very good. What a pleasure to talk to you. Donald Rumsfeld's new book, Known and Unknown, a memoir.
This was absolutely crazy. Before I show Louis talking to Donald, I want to read some of Donald Rumsfeld's credentials just so you have a better idea as to who it is we're talking about today. Donald Rumsfeld is a highly acclaimed naval veteran who retired at the rank of captain, and he served as the 13th and 21st Secretary of Defense with President Gerald Ford and George W. Bush, and he also worked under Richard Nixon. He also served as a White House Chief of Staff, the U.S. Ambassador to NATO, counselor to the President, and a shit ton of other important things. The point is, this dude was a huge deal in the realms of military, business, and politics, and he of all people called into the Opie and Anthony radio show. Louis starts off by asking questions about the temptations of being a person of power. Nothing really out of the ordinary.
Have you ever been interviewed where you got upset with how it went and then actually did anything to exact revenge on the person?
Never.
Why would he do that, Louis?
I don't know.
That's Louis C.K.
Because you know, if you're a man of power, it's got to be an interesting thought at least.
No. What you do is you think to yourself, what might I have done differently? You've got to expect people to come at you because in our wonderful country, everyone can have their own opinion, and goodness knows they can have intense opinions. But I find that if they have intense opinions that are opposite to mine, there's an awful lot of people who have intense opinions that are very much like mine.
So Donald says that he doesn't believe in seeking revenge on people who disagree with you, which is very reasonable. Of course, he could just be saying this to look good, because this is also the same guy who claims Saddam Hussein in Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. So even though it seems sincere, you have to take what this guy says with a grain of salt. This was also right after he made an appearance on the Jon Stewart show, and Jon Stewart is politically the complete opposite of Donald Rumsfeld. So even if he is wrong at times, I can respect his willingness to have an open discussion with others. Then after several more minutes of questions, Louis brings up a question straight out of left field.
It's interesting though, because there are people who think, I mean, here's a guy who met Eisenhower as a congressman, right?
I was running for Congress, exactly.
And worked for Ford and Nixon and Reagan and both Bushes. And there's still those people out there that think, Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney are actually lizards who, I mean, literally, there's people that think they're lizards from outer space.
Yeah, that's true.
Who eat human flesh. I don't know if anybody's ever asked you directly, sir, but are you a lizard?
I don't think
Are
he's
you
a lizard.
actually? Can you just please give that a straight answer? Are you a lizard person?
Louis a little left-leaning,
No,
sir.
I'm not.
He asked the former Secretary of Defense if he was a fucking lizard. What a hilarious moment in radio. This was meant to be funny, but then Donald Rumsfeld proceeds to give one of the most bizarre responses you could ever imagine.
Let him answer. Are you a lizard?
Here's the short answer.
Yeah.
I'm in New York City. I walk down the street. People walk up, shake hands, stop me. They want an autograph.
He's a lizard.
Want to get a photograph with me. Go to eat last night at dinner, and Joyce and I were sitting there in the little Italian restaurant. and a man came up and said he'd like to buy my dinner, and I And it turns out I paid for my dinner. The next thing I know, the waiter comes back and said the man insisted to pay for your dinner, and here's your canceled receipt for paying.
Oh, wow, that's very nice.
There's plenty of people that...
He tells a story about someone paying for his dinner and doesn't even dignify the question by answering it. This is in reference to the notorious conspiracy theory about how people in politics are reptilian shapeshifters that are contributing to a coordinated effort to swindle the human race. Crazy conspiracy theory, but there are quite a few people who believe in this theory. You would think Donald Rumsfeld would have given a simple no, but he completely dodges the topic, and then Louis presses him again about him not answering the question and makes several funny quips along the way.
You didn't answer the question.
He's not going to
I think you're
dignify...
hanging around with the wrong people.
He's not going to dignify an answer to, are you a lizard, Louis?
Why not? Just tell
Because
me
he's
no.
not a lizard.
What is the story about getting somebody paid for your dinner? I would pay for a lizard's dinner.
I think I understood the fact that there are people out there that appreciate what he's done as a leader. And
there's plenty of evidence that this guy is a well-decorated and appreciated American. And he has more credibility than almost anybody.
Exactly.
But I just want to know if he's a lizard.
He's not a lizard. Stop it. I want to apologize, Mr. Rumsfeld. Louis C.K. is a stand-up comedian, and I do not share his ideology one iota.
Matter of fact, we're meeting him for the first time. We don't even really know him, so we apologize.
Exactly.
It's usually just me and Anthony, but we said, what the hell, we'll try out this local comedy.
So Opie and Anthony would proceed to glaze Donald Rumsfeld for a bit just to keep him from hanging up the phone, and they asked him a few more questions about the Middle East and American foreign policy. Then after that, Louis circles back and presses Donald again and asks him once again if he's a fucking lizard.
Absolutely.
Listen, and these are great questions, Anthony, and they're questions that Mr. Rumsfeld is going to answer better than almost anybody in the world.
Yeah.
But I still want to know if he's a lizard.
And if he is, stop it.
If he's tasted human flesh.
No, stop.
I just want to know.
Mr. Rumsfeld, again, I want to apologize for Louis C.K. He's a stand-up comedian. He's playing at the Borgata.
It's
go to
a legitimate...
Borgata.com.
Look, if he's a lizard who has eaten people...
Don't encourage him. It'll just make him worse.
See,
I will stop the second I get a denial. I'll stop asking.
Tell Louis that my grandchildren are listening.
See?
Well, listen, they have a right to know, too.
No, he's not a lizard, and he's not tasted human flesh.
The best part is when Donald Rumsfeld mentions his grandkids are listening to this, and then Louis, who's just completely dialed into being as funny as possible, says, well, your grandkids have a right to know if you're a lizard as well. Absolutely hilarious work from our favorite comedian / masturbator. You would think that Opie and Anthony would just laugh and not try to hinder Louis' efforts to ask this question, but it makes sense that with a highly esteemed public figure, they're trying to be the middleman and keep Donald from just logging off and avoiding any more questions from them. After all, Louis is the comedian and Opie and Anthony are the mediators. Louis then takes it a step further and asks Donald Rumsfeld if, in addition to being a lizard, if he also knows of any other politicians being lizards and if they've eaten the flesh of Mexican babies.
The guy is a great American, a great patriot.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
He's done great things for this country. And
yes, Anthony, is he a lizard? Is Dick Cheney a lizard?
No, they're not. They are people.
Any Mexican babies? Have they eaten any human beings?
Stop it. Stop it. I know, Mr. Rumsfeld, I apologize. Louis C.K.
I paid for this microphone, mister.
He's trying
I want
to
an
be
answer.
Funny. I don't understand it.
Donald refuses to comment on the question once again after Louis takes an even more absurd turn with it. Then Louis would continue to joke about it several more times throughout the episode as Donald Rumsfeld is on the line, and it's pretty goddamn funny every time he does it.
How effective they are in organizing. And all of those are attributes that are helpful for a president.
Before the Lizard Council meets and decides who to appoint.
The Lizard Council doesn't appoint a president, and he's not part of the Lizard Council.
If they do, don't you want to know?
No.
Don't you at least want to give him a chance to say, no, I'm not a lizard?
I don't want to picture Donald Rumsfeld on the other end of this phone listening to you asking
with red lizard
questions.
eyes.
No, he's not with Mr. Rumsfeld.
Louis then asks an incredibly loaded question about how he would defend the country if he knew a lot of people had to die in order to do it successfully, which then gets tied back to the lizard question at the end. Donald admittedly has a pretty funny response to this question.
But American safety is like the biggest deal to us. American defense. We've got to keep the American people safe. But what if a whole lot of people in other places have to die in order for us to be safe? Like, what if you found out that a lot of America was going to get hurt unless we just took France and just wiped it out.
That's a.
Would you trade France?
Hypothetical.
Would you trade France for Texas and Arizona?
Can you imagine if I answered that question?
Thank you.
What the
Thank
news
you.
lead would be?
Exactly.
It would be like the answering your earlier question, where I would deny that I'm something that you asked me.
Right. He's not going to deny he's a lizard.
But he hasn't officially denied it.
What would be hurt by denying that you're a lizard?
I did not just arrive in town falling off a turnip.
There are no turnip carts in New York City.
Well, he didn't fall off of one.
No,
regardless.
I totally understand. But no, that's fascinating to me. What would be hurt by denying? And I'm not going to ask you to deny it now. I'm more interested in what would be hurt if you denied that you're a lizard.
He's justifying the question.
Sorry, I brought it up. I apologize.
No.
This was a super crazy question that Louis asked, but I do think it led to a funny moment in the interview. Then after several more questions, Donald Rumsfeld was wrapping up, and Louis closes by saying he's pretty sure he's a lizard once again.
Thank you, Donald Rumsfeld. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoy being with you.
I'm pretty sure you're a
Thanks,
lizard.
sir. He's not a lizard. Stop it.
Pretty
Thank
sure
you,
he
sir.
ate people once.
You should select your partners carefully.
Yeah, I'm
yes.
trying. I'm trying,
Right.
sir.
Come see me
Thank
at the
you.
Borgata in Atlantic City on April 23rd.
I have to say that Donald Rumsfeld handled himself very cordially and was a pretty good sport for being a lizard. Some lizards would have attacked and killed Louis with their venomous strikes, such as a Gila monster or the Mexican bearded lizards, but Donald was really cool despite being ridiculed and mocked relentlessly by Louis' questions on the air. He preferred the approach of the strong silent type, which for some people might be a good approach, but then some other people might see it as cowardly for not answering a simple question. Even though he looked silly to some people by avoiding the softball question, this still ended up being one of the funniest moments in Opie and Anthony history, and it would then go mega viral on the internet after it was published in February 2011. But anyway, what did you guys think? Do you think Donald Rumsfeld is a lizard or a regular person? Do you think the lizard conspiracy theory has any truth to it, or it's just a crazy one with no backing? Do you think he should have said no instead of just ignoring the question? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Also, if you want to see some bonus content, you can check out my Patreon in the description, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one.